The signal wasn't meant to be heard. Not anymore. Buried in the hiss of cosmic radiation, wrapped in a code older than most known species, it was little more than a whimper, a broken, glitched sequence of sobbing tones and light pulses, echoing from a star system long written off as dead. But against all odds, it reached a listening array on the edge of the Perseus arm. And it reached her. Commander Amina Rice stared at the transmission's waveform as it flickered across her screen aboard the UAS Resolute. The signal was old, corrupted, looping in ways that suggested a near-sentient desperation. Her bridge officers had already run the standard scans. No commercial identification, no military markers, no known species match. Just a haunting, cyclical pattern that felt human, somehow, even though it clearly wasn't. "Are you telling me no one else picked this up?" Rides asked, still watching the signal spiral through its repeating sequence. Lieutenant Haru nodded grimly. "Confirmed. We were the only ones angled right to catch the burst clean. We've already sent data copies to Solnet, but no response from Fleet yet. Because no one wants to respond," Rise muttered. "It's easier to ignore ghosts." The Kilari expanse had been quiet for centuries, too quiet. Legends whispered of the Wysilari, a peaceful race with minds like crystal lattices and voices that resonated across vacuum. They were wiped out, supposedly, by enemies unknown. Nothing concrete, just stories passed down in scattered refugee circles. No ships, no planets, no bodies. Just vanishing. Until now. "What's the closest jump point?" she asked. Haru hesitated. "Nearest gate takes us 6 light days off course. Mission Control won't like it. We're under contract for the Narration Relay Survey." Rise leaned forward, eyes cold with resolve. "We've surveyed 100 dead rocks this year, Lieutenant. This one might not be dead. Plot the course." "Aye, Commander." The crew obeyed without further question. They had served under Reyes long enough to understand one thing. She didn't ignore cries for help. Not human ones. Not alien ones. Not even ones that might have been screaming for centuries into a galaxy that no longer cared. As the Resolute arsed away from its planned course, diving into the edge of the expanse, the crew felt it. An undercurrent of purpose. Something rare in this age of cynical diplomacy and profit-driven expansion. Humanity had clawed its way into the stars, yes, but it had also brought its empathy with it. Back on the bridge, Rise stood in silence, watching the streaking stars blur into the swirling mists of uncharted space. She didn't know who, or what, was calling, but someone was still crying out. And humanity would answer. The system had no name, only a designation. LHS 6179 Delta, marked on ancient charts as inhospitable and flagged by several nav archives as unstable. A collapsed star dominated the center, a heavy, dark thing that drank light and hope in equal measure. Around it spun debris fields and shattered planetoids like mourners in a slow, eternal vigil. The Resolute emerged from subspace on the edge of this forgotten graveyard. Commander Reyes stood at the bridge viewport, arms folded as ghostly light washed over her face. The system was quiet, unnaturally so. Even the background radio hiss was muted, like a cathedral that remembered too much. "Scans are reading." "Odd," said Ensign Cato, peering at her console. "There's gravitational distortion near the third orbital path. Something's cloaked, maybe hidden inside a moon fragment." Reyes turned to her XO, Lieutenant Haru. "Anything alive?" Haru's brow furrowed. No biosigns. But the signal's stronger now. Still looping, still pleading. The captain nodded. "Bring us in, carefully." The Resolute glided toward the third orbit, its armored hull reflecting fragments of ruined moons and crumbled asteroids. Then it came into view, a sphere, perfectly smooth and dark, tucked into the shadow of a broken moon like a pearl in a cracked shell. It was a construct. No seams, no visible power source. But it pulsed faintly, emitting the exact frequency of the distress signal. Confirming artificial structure, Cato whispered. Approximately 50 kilometers in diameter. Composition, unknown alloys and crystal matrices. As the crew prepared a recon drone, the signal shifted. For the first time, a voice emerged from the static, not words, but tones. Melodic, trembling, rising like a choral plea. It didn't speak in syllables, but in emotion. Pain, loneliness, remembrance. A cry, shaped by light and resonance. And then it spoke in their language. Please, don't go. The bridge fell silent. Rise stepped forward. Broadcast standard greeting, she said quietly. Identify us as human. Peaceful intent. Haru gave her a strange look. You think it can understand us? I think it's been listening for a long time, Rise murmured. The message went out. For 10 seconds, there was only silence. Then a lattice of light formed across the surface of the sphere, hundreds of glowing veins that converged into a single, pulsing symbol, a spiral intertwined with a flame. Cato's voice shook. Commander, that's the HFY crest. I've seen it in Synology archives. The signal changed again. Not a cry now, but a question. Are you like them? Ray stepped toward the comm console herself. No, she answered, voice steady. We heard your cry. We came to listen. The structure pulsed, then slowly began to open, petal by massive petal, revealing a glowing interior of crystalline spires and rotating memory cores. A presence awakened, not a being of flesh, but of light and thought. Cellin 7, last caretaker of a dead race, had just found someone who listened. The entity called Cellin 7 was ancient, but not in the way stars or ruins were ancient. Its voice flickered in ultraviolet harmonics and quantum-linked neural fields, an echo of a civilization murdered so thoroughly, its language existed now only in fragments of art and myth. But inside the core of the Bisolari archive moon, it endured, alone for centuries, watching the galaxy turn its back. Until humanity answered. Commander Amina Reyes stood inside the glowing chamber with her EVA suit sealed, though the environment was pristine. Columns of light floated around her like cathedral pillars, shifting as if tracking her presence. The entity wasn't physical. It moved through fiber crystal pathways, forming a face only when it needed to be understood. That face hovered before her now, shifting from a vaguely humanoid form into the silhouette of a Isolari, a tall, elegant figure composed of soft blue flame and translucent symmetry. You are not Drool, Cellin 7 said, voice like glass wind chimes in a storm. You are not silence. No, Rise replied. We're from Earth, from Sol. We don't know who the Drool are, but we heard your signal. The crystalline chamber dimmed, then flashed in slow pulses, a sign of deep processing. The Drool are extinction. They silenced the Bisolari. They feared what we remembered. Rise absorbed this in silence. Nearby, Haru relayed sensor data over comms. Commander, we're picking up movement on the edge of the system. FTL signatures. Fast and heavy. Reyes's jaw tightened. Identification. No transponder codes, but if this is Drool space, they may have noticed us. Cellin 7 flickered, its flame body vibrating with barely suppressed urgency. They will come. They will erase again. They do not permit survival. Then you're not alone anymore, Rise said. If they come, we'll stand with you. Why? Cellin 7 asked, almost like a child. What do you gain from us? We are memory. Ash. Grief. Rise looked up, eyes hard. You are the voice that still cries out. That's enough. The silence that followed was not emptiness, it was reverence. Then, slowly, Cellin 7 reached out through the ship's interface, integrating with Resolute's systems in a non-invasive stream of light. It fed schematics, data, history. And it listened, truly listened, as Reyes told it what humanity had become. Meanwhile, the ships on the edge of the system closed in. The Drool Combine had awoken. By the time Earth received Resolute's emergency uplink, the galactic political apparatus was already in motion. Human diplomats were summoned, warned, threatened. The Council of Species condemned unilateral action in a historically quarantine zone. Withdraw or be labeled interventional aggressors, the Varn Dominion ambassador declared coldly. Earth's answer was broadcast live across the Solnet, relayed from Admiral Kane Sorel aboard the UASIA's Dauntless. We received a cry for help. We answered. If that makes us aggressors in your eyes, then you've forgotten what peace is for. From the ashes of a forgotten race, humanity had lit a torch, and the galaxy was about to see it burn. The first Drool warship arrived without warning. It didn't hail, didn't posture. It opened fire. A lance of green plasma streaked across the void and slammed into one of Resolute's outlying defense drones, atomizing it in a flash of silent light. The bridge lights dimmed as shields rerouted energy across the hull. Impact on Drone 4, shouted Ensign Cato. Incoming fleet, 7 vessels, medium to heavy class. No identification signals. Classic Drool formation. Commander Reyes didn't flinch. Raise shields. Spin up the lance batteries. Target lock only. No return fire unless they breach our perimeter. Lieutenant Haru turned to her. They already fired, Commander. And we're still standing, she replied. We don't fire first. Not in this fight. But it was no longer a fight they could avoid. The Resolute began a graceful, silent pivot, placing itself between the Weaselary Archive moon and the oncoming Drool warships. Its hull shimmered with activated shield layers and rotating weapon turrets, gleaming like a guardian knight under the dying light of a collapsed star. Inside the Archive, Cellin 7 flared with agitation. They have come to finish the erasure. They'll have to go through us, Ray said. The second wave was worse. Coordinated. 2 Drool cruisers unleashed kinetic hammers. Dense slugs wrapped in gravitic fields. Resolute rocked violently, the floor tilting beneath the crew's boots as inertial dampeners struggled to keep up. We're taking hull pressure amidships. Shield layers at 63%. Cato yelled. All batteries, defensive pattern. Rays snapped. Give them a warning shot. The Resolute's twin spinal lances spat arcs of molten energy across space, slicing just past the lead Drool ship's flank. The beam left a glowing trail across its armor. No damage, but the message was clear. Then came the retaliation. A Drool destroyer broke formation and made a direct run on the moon. Its weapons spun up, targeting the still exposed pedals of the Weaselary structure. They're going to hit the Archive. Reyes made the call. Open fire. The Resolute let loose with the full fury of a human dreadnought. Rail batteries, missile pods, and directed energy turrets roared in synchrony. The destroyer didn't stand a chance. It detonated mid-charge, scattering debris like angry fireflies across the void. Silence fell. Then chaos erupted across the stars. The other Drool ships pulled back, regrouping. But now, they hesitated. For the first time in centuries, they'd faced resistance here, and lost. The galaxy was already watching. The battle footage, beamed from the Resolute's quantum array, was spreading fast. Dozens of frontier systems received it before the galactic networks tried to suppress it. And they did try. Official condemnations came in from the Thess Compact. The Varn Dominion demanded immediate withdrawal, but they were already too late. The images of Rice standing between an archive of the dead and a fleet of butchers had struck a chord. Uprisings flared on fringe worlds ruled by fear. Voices long silent now screamed in solidarity. Humanity hadn't come to conquer. They had come to protect. And for the first time in centuries, the Drool knew fear. The aftermath of the skirmish hung like dust in the void. Cooling wreckage drifting through the grave silence of LHS 6179 Delta. The Resolute remained in low orbit over the Archive moon, her hull scorched and shields flickering from overuse, but still standing. Humanity's line had held. Yet in the heart of the crystalline structure, the true awakening had only just begun. Cellin 7 was changing. Where once its voice had been timid, fractured by isolation, now it echoed through the chamber with renewed strength. Crystalline towers shifted, folding into lattice structures that pulsed with harmonics. Colors danced in complex, mathematical intervals, a symphony of light resurrecting a culture. Memory integrity restoring. 912 cultural cores reactivated, Cellin 7 announced, its voice less fragmented, more certain. The Ysolari. Remember. Commander Reyes stood still, watching as walls once dormant bloomed into holograms. Faces, cities, songs, artifacts and archives, long thought lost, were reforming from fractal storage. What's happening? Lieutenant Haru whispered from beside her. It's not just a monument, Reyes replied softly. It's a living library. Cellin 7 was never just a custodian. It's a seed. We were not made for war, Cellin 7 said, drifting toward them in luminous form. But we were not made to be forgotten, either. Meanwhile, across known space, ripples spread. In the corporate war halls of the Hadron Syndicate, the broadcast of humanity's intervention was dissected frame by frame. On the worlds of the fragmented Jetheri diaspora, descendants of species displaced by the Drool centuries ago, mass vigils formed. Some sent messages directly to Earth, pledges of loyalty, offers of information, ancient debts remembered. Even the Galactic Council could no longer contain the narrative. Senators from frontier worlds demanded inquiries. A rogue ambassador from the Kevarn Unity openly questioned why the Drool were permitted to enforce silence over dead systems. And in Earth orbit, something else stirred. The UHS Dauntless was no longer alone. The call for reinforcements had been quietly, rapidly answered. A new battle group was assembling. Vessels not officially sanctioned, but crewed by volunteers. Private freighters, ex-Navy vessels, civilian scouts fitted with makeshift guns. The mission: defend the Resolute and protect the archive. It was no longer about policy. It was about principle. Back aboard the Resolute, Reyes met with Cellin 7 again. This time, the entity brought something with it, an object suspended in a field of harmonic resonance, a black crystal, humming softly, etched with flowing patterns no human had ever seen. This was the last song of the Ysolari High Council, Cellin 7 said. Encoded within is the truth of the war, the names of our betrayers, and the coordinates of others who may still survive. Reyes stared at the crystal. Others? Survivors. Possibilities, Cellin 7 replied. And warnings. The Drool do not erase because they fear death. They erase because they fear what we remember. In that moment, Reyes understood. The cry for help wasn't just a distress call. It was a summons, a spark meant to reignite resistance. And humanity had just become the flame. The Galactic Concord had held for over 4 centuries. A fragile balance of power, forged in the aftermath of a dozen border wars and genocide treaties. It was built not on trust, but fear, mutually assured consequences, endless negotiation, and the unspoken agreement that the past was best left buried. But humanity's answer to a dying voice had cracked the foundation. At the Concord's core station, Aurelian Prime, a synthetic moon wrapped in golden latticework, ambassadors from over 70 species gathered under a tense blue sky dome. Holographic screens flickered above the chamber floor, playing looped footage from the battle over LHS 6179 Delta. The Resolute standing guard, the Drool destroyer erupting in fire, the Ysolari archive opening like a wounded heart. At the center of it all stood Admiral Kane Sorrell, representing Earth. You violated Concord Protocol, hissed High Arbiter relic of the Varn Dominion, his tri-jawed mouth clicking with disdain. Unilateral deployment, armed engagement in a restricted system, interference with an extinct race's technology. They're not extinct, Sorrell said evenly. We found a survivor. We responded to a distress signal, just as the Concord Charter mandates. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Sorel stepped forward, projection enlarging behind him. The image of Cellin 7, the glowing symbol of the Bisolari crest, and the black crystal of memory. We didn't start a war, but we won't walk away from a cry for help. The Drool delegation had remained silent until now. Clad in heavy exoshells and synthetic respirators, the two towering envoys stepped forward. One raised its clawed hand. The Bisolari were purged by unanimous decree. For their violations, for their forbidden knowledge. Who decided that? Sorel demanded. Because the records say nothing. Nothing at all. The chamber shifted, subtle, but real. The word purged echoed longer than expected. Some delegates flinched. On the Resolute, orbiting the archive, Rise watched the feed live. She leaned forward, reading between the lines. They're trying to control the narrative, she muttered. But they slipped. They just admitted that Bisolari weren't destroyed by accident. Lieutenant Haru nodded grimly. There was a deliberate campaign. Systematic. Hidden in the name of peace. Back on Aurelian Prime, Sorel placed a data drive on the central days. This is a partial translation of the Bisolari memory archive, he said. Names, coordinates, evidence. The Drool didn't act alone. Others helped them. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegations shouted, demanded silence, called for closed session. But it was too late. The archive had been copied 100 times, distributed across SolNet relays and independent hypercast beacons. The truth was loose. The Concord was cracking. In the shadows of the diplomatic halls, envoys slipped away, some to prepare warships, others to deliver secret messages, and others to flee. As Admiral Sorel turned to leave, a young Kivarn envoy caught his eye and whispered, "You've lit the fire. Be ready. Some of us remember the old songs." That night, the human fleet grew. And across the stars, embers of rebellion caught wind. The storm was coming. From the burning skies of fractured border worlds to the cold, quiet systems long abandoned, whispers of the Bisolari archive had ignited a reckoning. Truth, long buried, erased by force and fear, was out. And truth, like fire, consumed everything in its path. On the frontier planet Tyrosvel, home to a scattered population of exiles and smugglers, a forgotten monument lit up for the first time in centuries. Bisolari markings, long worn down by time and neglect, glowed with life as a hidden relay core reactivated. Cellin 7's voice echoed faintly through the stone. If you can hear this, you are not alone. The people of Tyrosvel gathered under shattered moons and sent a signal back. They were the first, but not the last. Across fractured star charts, hidden enclaves stirred. The Raveri, long thought extinct, emerged from cloaked world ships. The Ishari Chorus, a species of telepathic historians, broke their silence for the first time in 3 generations. And on the cold moon Kyanval, a vault opened that had not breathed in light since before the Drool purges. Each response flowed back to the archive moon, back to the Resolute, and to humanity. Commander Rice watched the signals stream in, one after another, glowing dots lighting up a galaxy gone dark. Behind her, Cellin 7 pulsed in the archive's core, its frame humming with growing strength. "We are not a beacon anymore," it said. "We are a chorus, a flame with many voices." On Earth, a new fleet launched from Lunar Base Alexandria. Not a formal naval group. This was something different. Civilian ships, ex-military, volunteer pilots, crews from the asteroid belts, Martian mining rigs, even Jovian deep haulers, each bearing the emblem now painted in white across their hulls. A flame wrapped in a spiral, the symbol of the Bisolari, the symbol of remembrance. And with it, humanity declared their stance. We don't run from memory. We defend it. Not all stood with them. The Varn Dominion expelled all human diplomats. The Thes Compact issued an embargo on Terran trade. The Drool Combine, now cornered by exposure, dropped pretense entirely. Their fleets mobilized from deep space arsenals, war factories blinking online across the black. It was no longer a question of if there would be war, only when. On the eve of what would become known as the Alliance of Flame, Rice stood on the observation deck of the Archive Moon, looking out at the stars. Haru approached quietly. "We've received confirmation. The Ishari Chorus will join us. They're bringing something old, something they've hidden since the Purge." Rice turned. "Weapon?" Haru shook his head. "Memory. A full record of the Luisaluri homeworld before it was destroyed, including their last warning." From deep within the archive, a new pulse rang out. Not a cry for help, but a call to rise. The galaxy was no longer silent. It was singing back. They called it the Battle of the Last Silence. It began at the edge of known space, where the Luisaluri Archive Moon floated like a single glowing ember in a sea of black. Around it, humanity's fleet, patched together, undergunned, and outnumbered, stood ready. Their ships bore no imperial banners, no declarations of conquest. Only one symbol, a white flame spiraling outward. The Drool Armada came in force. Hundreds of ships, dark, angular monstrosities designed not for occupation, but annihilation. Their goal was simple: wipe the archive clean, crush the defenders, and silence the galaxy again. But they hadn't counted on what humanity had become. Commander Amina Reyes stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her face calm, eyes locked on the stars ahead. "All ships, hold formation. Priority is the archive. If we fall, it must live." Signals flared across the void, flickers of acknowledgement from Earth freighters, Ishari light skips, Revari needle fighters, and exiled warships once thought lost. As the Drool descended, the defenders rose. The first clash was cataclysmic. Beams lanced through the dark. Kinetic slugs the size of buildings tore across space. Shields flared, hulls cracked, and yet humanity held. Then the chorus rose. Cellin 7, now fully awakened, activated the ancient harmonic defense lattice buried within the archive. From the moon's core erupted a wave of light, resonant, high-frequency pulses that danced along the fabric of space. The signal wasn't a weapon. It was truth, broadcasted across every channel, every frequency, every neural net from here to the galactic core. The archive's full contents were unleashed. Footage of the Purge, testimony from Isolary survivors, the names of conspirators, and worst of all, recordings of peaceful overtures met with betrayal. The galaxy watched, and in that moment, the war shifted. Several allied ships in the Drool fleet turned. Entire squadrons broke rank. Pilots defected mid-battle, joining the defenders. Even some long silent council worlds broadcast support. The archive had become more than memory. It was the spark of revolution. But victory had a price. As the final wave of Drool cruisers zeroed in on the archive, the Resolute was crippled. Fires raged along her spine. Shields collapsed. Reyes, wounded, stood with blood on her collar and fire in her voice. "Ram them," she ordered. The bridge crew stared. "That's a command." The Resolute, final guardian of the archive, surged forward on failing engines, right into the heart of the lead Drool dreadnought. Just before impact, Reyes transmitted her final message. "We remember, we protect, we rise." The collision tore a hole in the enemy line. A chain reaction of detonations followed. The archive was saved. And Commander Amina Reyes became a name etched in flame across 1,000 skies. In the years that followed, the Flame Accord was born, an alliance of species sworn to preserve memory, protect voices, and prevent silence from ruling again. At its heart was a single statue. Reyes, standing beside Cellin 7, flame in one hand, reaching out with the other. They called it the moment humanity didn't just join the galaxy. They changed it forever.